In fact, many pilots are starting to now speak out, Captain Elawat. In fact, I have some of the quotes of those who spoke to us, right? One pilot and one cabin crew member spoke to Republic TV. My colleague Shavan is also speaking to them, and he's getting a lot more. Now, they are speaking to us and they are saying they've been on standby since Thursday. I'll tell you what a pilot told Republic. There is a graphic of what the pilot has said and what the cabin crew member has said. We'll put that out. Basically, Captain Elawat, a pilot says, we've been on standby since Thursday. I've not been advised on rostering from the airline. I was initially scheduled to fly to Bhubaneswar, even went on to give the route, but I'm not giving out his full name, his details, because it'll be obvious. We promised him that we'll maintain the source, right? But essentially what this proves is, and along with that, a cabin crew member also tells Republic that they've been ready and waiting since Thursday. They were told to wait till Friday of the schedule, and they were never informed of the roster. Pilot waiting, cabin crew on standby, and here you have Indigo blaming them. Indigo blaming them, saying that we have shortage of crew. Crew is there waiting to work. They were not told where to work, where to go, nothing. So this proves that this has been engineered.
See, they have been caught with their pants down literally. The requirement or additional requirement of crew because of this FDTL norms was just about 10% or maybe lesser, but almost 100% of their network collapsed. They blame the pilot, they blame the cabin crew, they blame the passengers, they blame everybody except themselves. This is an example of naked corporate greed. Things got too far, they got too greedy, and finally they are paying for, who's paying for their sins? Actually, it is the citizen that is paying for their sins. And Indigo can keep blaming anybody they want, but the truth is out there. They failed miserably. They prioritize profit over promise. They built a brand, took 20 years to come to some kind of reputation that says, okay, they get the job done. They may not provide you with frills, but they come on time, leave on time, get you home in time. But see what happened the last couple of days when the greed went too far.
Now, yesterday, the CEO of Indigo said that cancellations were ensured to make sure that the cabin crew and the planes were aligned, to ensure that they were aligned, which means they had planned to do it. It was not accidental. But even today, passengers are going to the airport. They have not been informed of whether their flights, are being cancelled or not. It's complete chaos. There has been no communication whatsoever. Captain Elawat, ideally in a situation like this, how do you think the airline should have responded?
The CEO released a video saying we will refund 100% of the amount booked. It is not happening. There are bookings made through third parties like Make My Trip, etc. Those are not happening. The bookings made directly through airlines are not happening. And when things are good, they send you nice, peppy messages that we leave 5 minutes early, reach in time, etc. But when the system came crashing down, there was no information. The app did not display cancelled flight. The website did not display cancelled flight. People did not receive SMSs. And surprisingly, despite all the chaos, despite them cancelling the flights, the bookings were still available. I mean, what do you say to that? You're allowing people to book for flights that you're not going to operate. So clearly, they left much to be desired. And I hope the regulator and the government jumps in here and fixes their house.
In fact, I just want to make another point here, because until this afternoon, 2 p.m., and I'm going back to that point because several passengers, reached out to us saying even now, I mean, this was at 2 p.m. And after 2 p.m., of course, the government put out that press release. I think it was at about 12:45, but until 2 p.m. almost, the prices hadn't changed. They said, we want airlines to follow, the regulation and ensure that they cap the prices. They can't charge beyond a point. And the detailed order, the breakup of the maximum length and maximum fare came out much later, roughly about half an hour, 45 minutes back. But the fact is the government could have done that a long time back. We had, if I can put out the graphics of the different airfares, the duration, the length of the flight and the maximum fares, it basically tells you how much the airlines looted. Some of the airlines were charging almost 80,000 rupees for a 3-hour flight. Delhi to Bengaluru this morning, as of this morning, 11 a.m., was being charged, was being quoted at almost 80,000 rupees. There was no capping of the fares that was done, and if cancellations have been happening in the last 1 month, which I believe they have been for Indigo. Last 1 month, in November, we saw that there were, almost 1,200 flights that were cancelled. And I want to go across to Shravan as well, joining me on the broadcast today, because Shravan has spoken to another pilot. Shravan will break that in much more detail in a short while from now, but if you can tell us what all of this proves, what this proves about what Indigo has said, and what pilots are saying, and why it doesn't add up, Shravan.
Well, in fact, the pilots have now internally raised this entire concern that what they've essentially done is cut corners, played with the safety of the passengers. The reason being is this, because remember, with a narrow body that is basically used by Indigo, which is the A320 that largely holds the fleet of Indigo, which allows Indigo to have a larger number of flying routes to begin with, which means the resting period is much lesser. And that is the reason why when you are basically holding about 60% of the routes, essentially you have very little timing or very little room that is basically given for the pilots to recuperate. In fact, when the first phase of the FDTL rules were basically implemented, they were able to do so, but it so turned out that the management, or for that matter, those who were basically responsible for the crew rostering, started tinkering with it. In fact, when I spoke to a pilot a short while back on condition of anonymity, he has basically shared some details of what really happened in the last few days itself. But apart from that, also from the month of June itself, so much so that they've gone to the extent of telling one pilot that, look here, you're already getting enough enough time with your family, you need not take so much leaves. So they're basically even curtailing the leaves of some of the pilots. Now that's a claim that has been made by one of the pilots. I'm not saying that the airline must have done it with almost everyone here, but having said that, I'm just putting across what a pilot had to tell me a short while back when I spoke to them, to just understand what's really going with Indigo. Because why is it that the others are not really complaining about it? Yes, the difference is that Indigo flies maximum number of routes, and the other airlines have basically sent their aircraft for a retrofit and a few other reasons why perhaps we are not looking at the same problem with the other airlines. But the reality is this, that this is all manufactured because for the longest time Indigo has played with the safety here, and the very fact that they were not very comfortable with the rest period that has been given to the pilots to begin with. And let's not forget, we are talking about pilots who are humans at the end of the day, and you are pushing them to their limits. As far as night landings are concerned, which has now been brought to only 2 night landings, has also had its own impact as far as Indigo's operations are concerned. And Indigo, very smartly, it seems, has not really touched the international operations much. It is the domestic operation which has taken a huge hit at this stage.